all the people that are like, oh man, who we put ourselves in so much of a hole, like we didn't deserve the playoffs, this and that, blah blah. Like, just like the miserable mentality of just like, we shouldn't have made it anyway. Like this team screwed itself and all that. I get it. There's a truth in it because we did screw ourselves in the first half of the season. I just know for a fact Lions fans aren't thinking about that about their team.
No.
They wanted to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
There was no thought about tanking drafts. This team don't deserve it. They would have lost. There's none of that. No. You just want to get into the playoffs. And the Lions, in the same way as the Steelers, were one of the hottest teams in the second half of the season.
Yep.
So like I don't get what's going on here sometimes. There's just sometimes miserable people with the fan base.
No.
It's disappointing.
You said it perfectly. Honestly, it is that simple. I think that some people are naturally pessimistic. Some people are naturally contrarian. Some people are naturally just miserable people. The one point that always sticks out to me that I will never change my stance on is when a team finishes, in this case, Coach Tomlin, finished 9-8. Just the simple fact of it being a winning season. When has that ever been considered a bad thing? But when you talk about those same miserable people, they're the same ones that are upset about the fact that we finished 9-8 and we weren't better than that, even though these were the same people that were pissed off saying that we shouldn't win any more games when we were sitting at 2-4 at one point in time.
Fire Tomlin.
Tank this, fire that, he's a bust, this and that. And it's like everything that they hollered and complained about in the first half of the season, which we also said was normal context, all of those things they were hollering and fussing about did change, did shift. And we started to see all of those things take place, not just the intangibles, but even the statistical part, even the wins and losses part, right? But it's like they pick and choose which context they want to respect, or they pick and choose which standard they want to hold, this team to. And we've already broke down that narrative of when people will bring up the standard as a negative context and try to say, well, hey, the standard is a Super Bowl, so you're not going to a Super Bowl, you fire everybody. Well, and we broke down that context as well. We said, hey, man, it's been over 100 seasons in the NFL, or football being played in the NFL, over 100 seasons. The teams with the most Super Bowl wins are 6, right? We got 6, New England has 6. Then from there, when you start talking teams
Unfortunately, Brady has 7.
Which is fine, but when we're talking about, think about how many seasons, once again, though. Over 100 seasons. 7, not even 10, 7. That's less than 10%. Think about it, right? Then on top of that, when we just say how many appearances, sure, Brady would probably have the most appearances then. I'm assuming, right? He'd be around 10, 11.
I shouldn't have brought up Brady. I don't want to talk about him.
All good either way, all good. But the context or the point I'm making is this, man. When we say the standard is a standard, it's not just this Super Bowl or bust thing, because let's be real, that's not a realistic thing if we're talking about the true context of it, right? Because people like to take that statement to the most literal sense. So let's really get literal with it. So if you're meaning to tell me that at best, over 100 plus years, the teams that have the most appearances in the Super Bowl are 15, but the teams that actually won the most were 6, and there's only one player that has 7, it's not a lot of teams that are going to Super Bowls back to back to back. So what are you trying to accomplish? What is the standard? The standard is winning football. Winning football. A physical brand of football, a respectable brand of football, a consistent brand of football that constantly keeps you in the conversation. Yep. And that has not shifted, wavered in any way, shape, or form.
And I feel like that's not going away these next 10 years from what we're seeing with Pickett.
But we're not done yet. But on top of that, we're talking about January 9th right now. And we just were eliminated from the postseason. And not by anything that we did on the back end. That's the other context with this thing, man. So when we talk about the people that want to focus on the negative, where they just treat and look at this season as a loss and everything is negative, man, let them people be negative with their own kind over there. Because those miserable people, man, they could just be like that together. But the people that really understand this context, the people that really understand perspective and aren't trying to just be negative for the sake of being negative, you will see that a lot was accomplished this season. It's a lot to be positive about when you talk about retrospectively looking on this year. And even when we're looking into the future, why we should be extremely optimistic as well. And that's before a draft. Oh, not to mention we got 2 first-round picks, right? 17th overall and 32nd overall. But, hey, we ain't tripping on that. And that's without a tank. We still got good money in terms of what we're going to be doing, potentially moving pieces around and re-signing or going out and potentially getting a free agent. We have all these things already in place. We have the continuity. So it's like, man, if a person looks at this season and all they can focus on or all they get from this is negative, clearly they aren't the people that we're trying to attract. We're not trying to talk to them people. We're not trying to change y'all mind because that's clearly a negative person. We don't rock with that, man. It's positive energy because we see this stuff. You see the growth. And that's part of the reason why we're frustrated and why you're so upset about it, because it's like, dang, we know we could do even more. We just wanted to see what it would look like. And we don't get that chance. So that's the frustrating part. That's the feeling.
The Pickens connection yesterday.
You see it, bro.
Bloom.
You see it, bro.
It was unreal.
You see it, and it still could be better.
Yeah.
That's the other part. But that's the thing to me. It's like, man, the frustrating thing is, man, we were hot as heck. 7-2 down the stretch, 4 in a row, man. It is hard to stack wins in this league. You look around the NFL, not a lot of teams stack wins. That's one of the things that we religiously preach here in Pittsburgh, man. You got to stack wins. You got to stack wins. We talk about separating the season into 4 quarters prior to it being 17 games. Now we know you got that extra one. But just saying you got to go 3-1 or 4-0 each quarter. And if you do that, man, we're going to be all right. And you look at how they were able to finish this thing, man, sweeping that thing. Come on, bro. 2 division opponents, multiple teams during that phase that were trying to either compete for postseason spots or trying to knock you off. Let's be real. Cleveland took great pride in knocking off Washington last week, and they want to do the exact same thing this week. So it's like, man, we see all this type of stuff, man. I don't see how we could look at this and have this negative vibe, this negative energy with it, man, because it's a lot of positivity with this, and it will be continuing going forward, at least from my perspective, baby.
To your point, too, about how hard it is to win in this league in general, you could go back in time, but also you could look right now. If you go back in time, think of the teams that we viewed as successes over the last 2 decades, last 20 years.
The
Russell Wilson Seahawks.
Talk about them.
Big Ben and the Steelers.
Talk about them.
Aaron Rodgers Packers.
Talk about them. The Patriots.
Drew Brees and the Saints.
Talk about them.
Outside of the Patriots, like all those teams, like we had 2 rings with Ben. Russell Wilson only has 1.
Speak on it.
Drew Brees 1. Aaron Rodgers 1. But we would consider all those franchises during that time successes. We like because they were always in the mix. They always had the chance. When it comes down to a do or die game in the playoff, stuff happens sometimes. For us specifically, a lot of injuries were happening. A lot of weird stuff with fumbles, like there was some stuff that was, hey man, in a 1-game scenario, it's football.
Yeah,
and this is gonna screw you. This is gonna give you a loss. Not every team wins. But then it
also, and even just tapping into focus on that part specifically on the first half of the season, you're dealing with some of the injuries that we were having. You were dealing with some of the turnovers that we were having. But this is also not even a full year removed from Ben Roethlisberger. This was also not even a full year removed from Kevin Colbert. So once again, we're talking about switching between 2 different quarterbacks in a span of 8 games. And people were ready to write the Steelers 2022 season in stone off of 6 freaking games, bruh, which is crazy. And I feel like they're kind of embarrassed because of how everything shifted, because of all the people that wanted it to be this negative, just doom and gloom. Everything fell apart. Everybody sucks. I told y'all this was that. I told you he wasn't that, and this and so forth and so forth. And because they didn't get that chance to write that eulogy, now they trying to come back and hit us with the, well, see, yeah, that's why we ain't in the playoffs, though. See, we ain't get that part. We ain't going to Super Bowl, standards. It's like, bro, chill. Y'all tripping. Because all of that context matters, and that was the difference first half versus second half. The close games that we were losing, it was because we were learning. We were growing. We were getting healthy. Canada, he was growing. He was learning. You could definitely point to the difference between first half of the season with Matt Canada and these calls, second half of the season, Matt Canada and these calls. We could talk about first half of the season, scheme in terms of guys being open, versus second half of the season, scheme, guys being open, and now we're connecting. Talk about first half of the season, some of the turnovers. Second half of the season, not a lot of turnovers. Defensively first half, not as many turnovers. We knew we had that first game. We had that crazy amount. But after that, we did take a little bit of a lull. But then to come back in that second half and all the turnovers that we were able to accumulate, it's like, man, everything that we wanted and that we were so frustrated about not having in those first 6 games, if you really look at it in this second half of the season, we checked off all of those boxes. And that's something I was like, I can't have a negative mindset about this squad if that's what took place 1 year. The first year after 2 massive changes. Like, for me, I think it hits a little bit different because I've been a part of organizations where we've had those type of changes, and I understand how long it takes for you to recover when you switch GMs, when you switch quarterbacks. Seen that multiple times. It does not work out like how it did this year, man. This is a rarity. But you would have to understand that and have that type of experience, and not everybody in Steel Nation does, and rightfully so. But this is a positive situation we're in.
Miles
right
Jack
now,
was talking about it. He came from the
like for a
Jaguars.
fact. He can attest to it. Yep.
I think his quote, he said it before this game.
He could definitely
when
attest to it.
When we were 2-6 going into the bye, like no one blinked. It was just like we're gonna keep doing our best.
Whereas in Jacksonville, I'm sure it was blinking. In Buffalo, when we were sitting there like that, we got the blinking a lot, Deke. A lot of blinking going on.
Dude, but even outside of how I was talking about retrospectively how hard it is to win the league, think of the teams right now that everyone views as success or standard.
Let's talk about it.
Not to throw shade, but the Bills is one of them. Yeah. They don't have a ring just yet.
They don't.
The Chiefs, with Mahomes and everything, being to all these AFC championships, they only have one.
Let's talk about it.
The Rams just last year with Sean McVay, who I considered the best coach coming into this season, best coach in the league. What'd they just go, 5 and something? Because injuries happen. Stuff. Like, I'm not saying that was all on McVay,
but let's also.
It's just hard to win in this league.
And even with this, I would even take it a step further. Even with McVay, we think about how when he first came in and he won the Super Bowl, people crowned him and said that he was going to be able to replicate or even do more than what we've seen Coach Tomlin do in terms of just the consistent winning. And we've already seen. As much as people like to turn their nose up at that statistic about Coach Tomlin never having to lose a season.
McVay's talking about retiring.
Exactly.
I don't know how long it's going to be, but just to get a break.
Exactly.
Because how exhausted he is.
But that's the frustrating part when it's like you try to, or not you, but people will try to harp on that as a negative. And it's like, bro, you can't even guarantee that with the hot coaches. Remember, people swore by Pete Carroll as well as the time they said he was going to be better than Coach Tomlin. We've seen that even with him now. He's gotten it back a little bit better with Geno right now. But even his situation hasn't been the smoothest or the most successful. Sean Payton, we've already broke that down multiple times. Every coach that people try to bring up as if there is better, as if we have an issue coaching-wise. And that's the thing. We're not saying that there's nothing better, but to say that there is an issue that warrants a change. That's the type of stuff that is very frustrating because the people that have been brought up continually throughout the years with time prove that they are not on Coach Tomlin's level. They prove that. Everybody has injuries. Like you said, D. Everybody goes through changes organizationally with staff. Everybody goes through changes with personnel. But can you sustain winning? Can you do it? Did Coach T not have a Ben Mason Duck season as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And he still was able to maintain relevancy. Even in that season, going into the last game again. So, it is what it is, though. True Classic Tees. Let's go. Y'all know the homies True Classic Tees, man. The shirt that is built for us, those guys that are kind of athletic, but maybe not all the way athletic, or the guys that, just need something to make them feel a little bit more athletic, baby. That's what you get when you talk about True Classic Tees.
Or just straight up comfortable tees.
Absolutely comfortable tees. I mean, because that's the thing with this, man. It is built to feel like you're just lounging around, but at the same time, have that athletic cut up top where most of us feel a little bit better, but at the same time, get a little bit more playroom in that mid section. But with True Classic Tees, they have more than just t-shirts. I mean, they got the long sleeves, they got the sweatpants, the joggers, the shorts, hoodies, all type of different loungewear stuff that just make you feel good, make you feel comfortable. And that's how it's supposed to be, because you got to look good and you got to feel good, more importantly. But of course, if we're talking about them, we got a promo code. And that promo code is MOATS. You use that at trueclassictees.com. You get 25% off of your purchase. And it's free shipping if you have a purchase for over $100 as well. So make sure you check out True Classic Tees, because at the end of the day, we got to know it's a new year. So when it's a new year, it's a new me. And I got the new tee. Shout out to the homies at True Classic Tees for that as well, baby.